Coming up next on the Santita Jackson Show is our Say What segment.
Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. I am so excited to be with you today, as I will be every Saturday afternoon, as we talk about issues that are important to you. We want to bring your dining room table discussions, your kitchen table discussions right here. And so I want you to join me on Facebook on the Santita Jackson fan page and reflect upon the show and tell us what you want to hear. This week, we want to start off our show as we talk about some of everything. We just left the inauguration, many of us, in Washington, and we've been talking about the role of the First Lady, right? The First Lady in God's house, in the White House, in your house. How has it changed? We're all so excited, right, to have Michelle Obama as the First Lady. We're excited about all First Ladies. I mean, come on now, we love them, right? But she has special meaning for us because she's the first African-American First Lady. She's young, she's beautiful, she's fit, she's fresh, she's so many things that we want to be. And yet, she is still assailed. We hail her, some people assail her, and quite frankly, there's discussion about her even in the black community, and many communities about things that people like, things that people don't like. So talk to me. What is the role of the First Lady? Before I get to you, Reverend Bullock, who is joining us, and Davon Darby, who is a law student. I met you when you were working for Congressman John Conyers. Now you are his press assistant, but you're also a media strategist. And you, Miss Lipsy, there you go. You run Congressman Conyers' office, but you're an entrepreneur and an activist. Tell me, let's start with you. When you look at the First Lady of the United States, what do you see? What do you see? Do you see her in the lineage of First Ladies? Because that's not new to our experience, right? We've had the First Ladies of HBCUs, of our churches. Is she different from you? Different to you somehow?
When I look at the First Lady, I see her definitely as a paradigm shift. You know, I see her as
a game changer.
A game changer,
How
absolutely.
So?
Because it's an unexpected reality, especially for minorities. And it's something that we should definitely embrace and be proud of.
Well, you don't see her as part of a continuum. You see her as something or someone who's very different?
Absolutely.
How
Absolutely.
so? Why?
Well, like I said, it's a paradigm shift because it's the reality of not knowing or the unknown that she's even holding that position.
Because this is secular power, not
Absolutely.
church power.
Absolutely.
Davon.
Well, I think she's absolutely different. It is indeed a paradigm shift. She's the descendant of slaves in the White House. That itself is an anomaly. I think people
who built it, right?
Yeah, 2012. I think people are still trying to figure that out and get used to that and what that means per se. But for me, it's lovely to see a black First Lady in the White House. And for me, although we had never seen one before,
we did have Sally Hemings there.
She doesn't count.
Well, no, she does count. No, I tell you why she does count. Because, and we have to examine this history, we can't disconnect. I think we have to be very careful not to disconnect our history. Otherwise, you're ahistorical and you get hysterical. You have a mess, right? It's important to know that Sally Hemings was brought to the White House by Thomas Jefferson, and that she was run out of town by his enemy because they had a relationship, they had children, and we can't delegitimize her in this moment. That does matter very much, that she didn't have the space to be legitimized or legitimated by marriage, because that's part of our history too. So what do you think?
Well, it's not a game changer. I mean, I think we overestimate the value of somebody having black skin. It is true, Michelle Obama is an African-American woman, but what's interesting is the space that she occupies as First Lady has not really highlighted particular policy issues that affect African-American women. Now she's over the get fit, kind of this get fit movement and moment. But you know, when you think about, say, Nancy Reagan, who really stepped out on the national scene and, you know, assaulting the drug trade, say no to drugs, and really had this prominent role.
Just say no when you have no money, nothing,
just
no
say
hope,
no.
nothing.
When you think about Hillary Clinton, who failed but tried to get her hands around health care reform and had this kind of very prominent role in the sense that she was a part of the brain of the presidency. I mean, people don't talk about Michelle Obama in relationship to President Barack Hussein Obama in the same way, and I think it would be interesting to see her kind of highlight policy issues that affect African American women. I mean, where's the conversation about cervical cancer? Where's the conversation about rising incidences of HIV/AIDS in African American females particularly? Where's the conversation about African American women filling jails? Not just African American men, but African American women filling jails. Where's the conversation about single women raising children, right? And that's very much so the west side of Chicago, right, that she comes out of, and the south side, and Detroit. But I'm saying there are a number of things that as an African American woman who is also the wife of the president and first lady of the nation, that she could highlight besides say get fit. And so it's interesting to me that those issues, kind of these black issues, you know, we haven't seen her champion, these bottom-up issues.
Because they're not just black
race
issues.
And class. Thank you so much.
Well,
right?
You know, because race is a subset of classism, not the reverse.
That's right. So we'd like to see. I think it would be interesting to see her become the champion of the bottom-up issues.
Reverend, you're a pastor. Now and I'm a PK.
Okay.
All right. So we know the structure of the church. You know, as much as beloved as first ladies are, you know that in the church, first ladies really have a hard time. The space that we think that they have, you know, they don't really have.
Well, I disagree.
Oh, now you know, first ladies take a lot of hits.
They take a lot of hits, but I'm the son of a first lady, and I can tell you firsthand.
I'm the daughter of one. I got
Joan Ann Brown Bullock was a phenomenal woman.
Yeah.
Right, God rest her soul. But if the space was not available, she made the space. That's just how bad she was. And you know, African American women are just bad like that, right? They create their own space, the best of them, right? And so I do not accept the assumption that someone as talented, gifted, and beautiful and bodacious as Michelle Obama cannot create her own space and redefine what First Lady means.
But I have to tell you, he just mentioned Hillary Clinton, one of the 100 most highly regarded lawyers in the country in the 70s and 80s. And people gave her the hardest time. She had to step back. And as she talked about standing by her man and being loyal, she had to do all of that. Everything that she said that she was not going to be, she had to, I mean, is there a way for us to combine the traditional and the modern? I mean, that's, you know, because people, I mean, this is a really, to me, this is something that we've got to talk about. Just where she fits and where our first ladies or our churches fit. Because it's interesting to me that you disagree with him and that you're both saying that they're game changers. But it's almost as if now our first ladies in our churches and the first lady, the president of the wife of Morehouse College president, or our HBCU's Howard, that it's almost as if they don't matter anymore.
That's because a lot of people want to be first ladies and see first ladies as a facade, as an image. So it's a game changer because of the way it looks. But we're not thinking about what it means in terms of championing issues. It's amazing to me when you think about first ladies in churches specifically, and women who want to be first ladies. They don't want to be first ladies to do ministry. They want to be first ladies so they can sit on the front row and be served and look like a queen. This is not about how you look. This is about delivering services to the least, the lost, and the left out. And so if you're not doing that, you're not changing any game.
Your response, ladies?
Well, I would say stay tuned from First Lady
What
Michelle
do you
Obama.
want now? Respond to him. What do you want? Would you like for her to talk about the challenges facing single mothers? Would you want her to have? Is she doing everything you want, or? I mean, because. Talk to me.
I think she's on the cusp of doing that. I think that
if you could lay out an agenda for her, as you lay out an agenda for Congressman Conyers, here I'm putting you on Front Street. What would you, if you could outline things for her, what would you have her do?
Well, I do agree with some of the issues that Reverend Bullock mentioned. However, there's a process to that. I don't think that she can just walk in day one and change the world in that sense. There is a process because of the paradigm shift. She does have to become acclimated in the position in which she holds, and that doesn't necessarily happen in the first term of her,
Second term now, lay out an agenda.
Absolutely.
Just give me 3 items that you would want her to concentrate on.
Because she's really involved in the healthcare, I think we will start to see her matriculate into some of the issues that affect women and single moms. I do think we will see that.
As a young woman, what do you want?
Well,
I mean, younger than, We're fresh 21-year-olds.
I think it's second term. I don't think that we need to wait any longer. I mean, we wait, you won't be in office anymore, you won't have that platform. So I think that we definitely do need to, she needs to explore single mothers, especially in the Black community, that's really high. There might need to be health care and definitely education for young girls and even young boys who drop out of high school, who have no plans to get a GED, who don't go to college, and funding to go to college and further your education.
Would you like to see that more? Would you like to see first ladies in our churches more prominently featured?
Definitely.
Sure, if they're doing something and
indeed.
they're not just sitting around wearing hats on Sunday. And
I agree with that.
First ladies in corporate America. I mean, first ladies in different aspects of society. I think Michelle Obama, First Lady Michelle Obama, and she's so amazing, could actually convene first ladies, right, and begin to talk about the first lady's agenda, right, and then dispatch them, right, throughout the nation and indeed the world, and use that the powerful woman as not just a model for creating an image, but as a model for a particular mission to empower people. And I think she has that power and is uniquely positioned to do that.
Well, you know, I think from God's house to the White House to your house, I think that all women have that power. All women have that capacity. And I'm hoping that one day that we will begin to let women have the space to be married with children, to work outside and have children. I hope that we will begin to become a society that will support women, that will support a woman's agenda. And maybe we can help the First Lady, all of our First Ladies, wherever they are, be the best that they can be and help the society grow. After all, there are backbones. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes.
Next, Santita explains her personal journey in a segment we call Wait a Minute.
This is a segment of our show entitled Wait a Minute, WEIGHT, Wait a Minute. It's inspired by my own story. Because you see, about 8 years ago, you would not have recognized me. I was 200 pounds, yes, 200 pounds heavier than I am today, and I was nearly dead. A few years ago, as I said, 8 years ago, my father received a telephone call from a very dear friend who'd been a near adversary. But because his heart was open, as God wants you to do, he answered his call, his family's call, to go and pray with them through his transition. And one of his last requests was that I sing at his funeral. And I wanted to fulfill that request, but I almost didn't because I had a tremendous gout attack. And it was hard for me to walk. But I went on and I sang anyway, and someone in the audience saw me. And she said, you know what, I want to help her. In the meantime, I've been praying to God for a miracle. I said, please, I need deliverance, because I knew that I was going to die if I did not get a miracle very soon. And so, when she called and said that she wanted to be my angel, I said, you know what? I don't want to hear another weight loss story. What a pretty face, how talented you are, all that you have to offer. I just couldn't take it. And I didn't respond to her call for almost a week. But when I did respond, I said, you know, she says she wants to be my angel. Maybe God is trying to speak to me. And boy, that was a real game changer. To make a long story short, she introduced me to a form of surgery that changed my life, the duodenal switch, in which I was able to really get assistance in losing these 200 pounds. And it's something that I try to manage today. But that's why I wanted to share this story with you, because someone saved my life, and maybe my story might save yours. Maybe the Santita Jackson Show can be your angel. Surgery might not be for you, but getting some kind of yoke off of you, breaking some kind of change, that's for you. So please go to the Santita Jackson fan page and share your story. We want to help you here. We want to be an angel to you so that you can change your life and be the best person that you can be. More in a moment.
Being your best self, cleaning up the closet of life. Santita.
Being your best self. Let's clean out those closets. I admit it. I am a hoarder. And as I've moved into the new year, I have resolved to change. But what do these attachments mean? I mean, really, keeping all of this stuff in my home on my person. If you look in my purse today, it must weigh about 30 or 40 pounds. Dr. Reginald Richardson of the Northwestern University Family Institute joins us once again to talk about getting our house decent and in order.
Absolutely.
What if you see someone like me, and you know me pretty well, and you see all of this stuff that I carry, what does that say to you?
Well, the first of all would be what sort of emotional things are going on that prevent you to be better organized.
I think we're going to end the show right now.
Yes.
I'm done. Okay.
So we would explore always when we're trying to understand why people do what they do, we have to figure out what's underneath that, right? So the behavior is really the expression of a symptom that's underneath. So oftentimes when people are disorganized, unorganized, it's because it's anxiety. Something's going on emotionally.
Is there a difference between being disorganized and unorganized?
Yeah, in pronunciation mostly.
Oh,
the concepts
okay.
are basically the same.
Okay, well, talk to me. I mean, if you see someone who's hoarding, are they holding on?
Now,
holding on to what?
Now, hoarding is something different. When we use the
Okay.
word hoarding, we're talking about people who actually have emotional and diagnosable problems that they are unable to release things. So that's a anxiety expression. So
Well,
a
what does
person who
that
has
mean?
extreme anxiety will hold on to things. Oftentimes they'll tell you that they're holding on to things because they might need them later.
Yeah.
That's an expression of emotional insecurity. So the idea of I'm holding on to these things because that's what's happening inside of me. So it is the expression of what's happening inside expressed outside. And so that's what we would call anxiety. And so there's treatment that a person would need to get who are actual hoarders. You're not at that point. You're like a lot of people, probably most people who are watching this show, are people who are holding on to emotional things that get in the way of them being their best self. And we can talk about the steps to sort of improving that.
I mean, help me with that, because I'm a fan of Susie Ormond's, and she says that holding on to all of this stuff, not keeping our closets clean, not getting them clean, stands in the way of us and prosperity. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. It's sort of the illustration I use with people is holding your fist tight. It's hard to allow God to bless you if you're raising your hands, praying for a blessing with your fist closed. God can't get anything into something that's closed. That's the same thing that happens to us emotionally. If we are at a place emotionally that's unclear, that we are hoarding ourselves, then we're not open to the possibilities of receiving what God has for us. So we have to open ourselves up. That's asking the question, what's getting in the way of me being the best person that I can be?
That's
the
step
first
one?
question. That's the first question, is what's getting in the way. Second step would be having some plans, written plans about how to approve that. So plans ought to be specific. They should be measurable, something that you can look back on in 3 months, 4 months, and see how you're doing. The plans also should be attainable, so let's not have, we're going to start working out and lose 100 pounds in the next 6 months. That's unhealthy and unrealistic. The plan should be relevant. It should be relevant to what we're trying to do. And then finally, it should be time limited, so that at the end of the year, you can look back upon the year and say, I did what I started to do, what I wanted to do, or I need to make some adjustments. So those sort of steps about making change, whether it's hoarding or being disorganized, those are still the basic steps that you need to make behavior change.
But you know, I hear something biblical going on here. In the beginning was the Word.
Yes.
Okay. Before it became flesh, it was the Word.
Yes.
Why do you think it's important to write things down? Why
Well-
not just, if I'm keeping too much stuff, why not just dump my purse, dump things out of my closet, just dump things out of my office? I mean, why not just do it?
Well, you're reminding me that when God wanted to give us the 10 Commandments, He gave it to us in a way that had to be written. So that instructs us that things that move from internal to external becomes more important. So the idea of being able to write it down emphasizes the importance of it, and it gives us a way to view whether or not we're on target or not. It gives us a checkpoint to see whether or not we've are successful in moving forward. So a plan is really not a plan. It's simply a goal unless it's written down. Once it's written down, it can move from goal to objective to steps necessary to achieve the goal.
In about a minute, cleaning out your closets. If you could speak to the audience, which you are doing right now, what would you tell them to do? Write a prescription, Dr. Richardson.
I would say one is that to whom much is given, much is expected, that our blessings flow from God, that we have to open ourselves up to receive that blessing. People who are hoarding are fearful, are anxious, And that fear and that anxiety is not of God. So we have to ask ourselves what's happening inside of us that makes us unavailable to receive what God has for us. And then once we figure that out, we come up with the steps necessary for identifying the change that has to happen within our behavior. God wants us to be the best that we can be. He's ready for us. We have to open ourselves up to receive that blessing. And once we do that, the things that we've asked for will come our way.
Wow. It seems that we are in our own ways when it comes to receiving these blessings.
Absolutely.
Dr. Richardson, I can tell you, I have been in my own way. And you're going to make me go home and clean out my closet. I mean, really, and organize them, and things that I just have too much of, I need to rid myself of. And, you know, it's amazing to me that as soon as I let things go, other wonderful things can come my way.
Absolutely.
You know, it's interesting, like if you really, really need money, or should I say if you're needy for it, no one will give it to you.
Right.
But you all, if you, why, you know, if you have something, it's like the heavens open up and give you what you need. I mean,
well, we have
what's
to
going on there?
demonstrate. We have to demonstrate that we're faithful with what we have right now. Why would I give you something? If you're being a steward, if you're taking care of the resource that I've given you, and you aren't doing well with what I have, why would I trust you with more? And I think that's what happens with us and God, is that God will give us what we need. When we demonstrate that what we have at this moment, that we are being faithful with that, then it will open the blessing up that God will trust us with more. We haven't demonstrated our reliability to God then. I think that's what we have to think about. How do we manage, how do we handle what we have right now? And God will then bless us with more when we've demonstrated we can handle it.
I want you to join me on the Santita Jackson page on Facebook. And let's hear your stories. Let's move forward together in the coming months. Let's get rid of the things that we do not need and replace them, and God will replace them with the things that you do need. Remember, God cannot give you anything, any blessing, when you have a closed fist. You got to let it go. Dr. Richardson says that anyway. I think you're right. I think you're right. More in just a moment.
Here's Santita's Up Close with a one-on-one interview.
Here's our one-on-one segment with Reverend D. Alexander Bullock. He is an activist, he is a pastor, and he is an artist. And a Morehouse man. So talk to me. I mean, you're putting a whole lot on the table here, as if being a pastor were not enough. You remain an artist. You are also a social activist. What are you doing?
Well, you know what, Santita, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate what you mean to our generation and your voice and perspective. So honored and privileged to be here. I am a outgrowth of the hip-hop generation, and so pastor, activist, musician, I'm an MC. What do? I move the crowd, you know.
What? That's rich.
Yeah,
that's rich.
I
I have not heard that before.
That's right. You know, so Rakim said I was a fiend before I became a teen, right? And Nas said all I need is one mic, right? And so the power of the word spoken through amplification to move people into a place of power is what I do, whether that's through music or from behind a pulpit or in a protest or press conference.
Well, with all of the attacks upon the church, why did you choose ministry and say not law?
Well, because
some other profession?
Ministry chose me. In fact, if I had my own way, I probably would not be working through the church, because sometimes I think the church moves too slow. But God called me at the age of 12. I resisted that. And again, at the age of 15, I ran from that. About 16, I accepted that. Now I've been preaching for over 20 years. And as we celebrate our 20th year in ministry, I'm the son of a preacher, grandson of a preacher, pastor, began to really see the opportunities for using the gospel and the church as an institution to move people into a place of power, both personally and
But how do you
publicly.
make that practical for the people in your church, for the members of your church? I mean, when you tell them that and they need financial assistance. We're dealing with, we're in more wars than we've been in since World War II. We have more poverty than we've had since the war on poverty began 50 years ago. I mean, our people, all American people and people all over the world are really suffering. How do you make the church relevant to them today?
Well, I think it begins with that message. President Barack Hussein Obama has popularized the phrase, be the change you want to see, right? I believe the gospel becomes the motivation and the empowerment for being the change. So, for instance, I pastor a congregation where a number of people are challenged financially and socially and economically, educationally, right? But when we begin to tell them they are empowered to change the world they live in, you don't have to live in poverty. Right? And you don't have to be powerless as it relates to the trade policy that sent your job from Detroit, from Highland Park. So it's not just looking for another job, right? But you're actually empowered to change the laws and conditions that influence the opportunities that you have. And that's a message that I see resonate. I mean, people want to be empowered. They want to feel like not their voice matters, their vote matters, their perspective matters, that they're a part of something that is moving this society and changing it in a way that brings peace and prosperity and blessings for all. They're excited about that message.
Well, that's exciting, and that's policy, and that's important. But what about the personal? I mean, because we're struggling in our homes. There's a story that came out in the Washington Post in 2006 in which a young black child said that, oh, I want a family, I'm paraphrasing, but marriage is for white people. And so, yeah, I want kids, but marriage, how do you make the connection between these policy endeavorings, which we do need, and these personal needs that we've got?
You know, I think that's a very, very important question. I think the personal is related to the public, right? We don't live personal and then publicly, right? We are a person, and we are in both realms, you know, and so it's amazing to me, though, that people are still having children. People are still dating. They're entering into relationships.
Wait, but you're amazed that people are still having children.
No, what I'm saying is that, you know, people are having children in our communities. I don't think having children or being married or finding love is a problem in the sense that you have to teach people and empower them to do that.
Wait a minute, not empower them, but show them how, Reverend.
Well, people are already know how to have children, Santita, and they already know how to fall in love.
Them,
okay,
Reverend Bullock.
Now, but
Yeah.
that's a great point. So raising children is a policy point, I believe, because when you talk about raising them, you're talking about school, you're talking about access to resources, you're talking about having a decent, good job, and so we can't disconnect what happens in the home from the conditions that make it hard for people to raise their children in it.
Well, and I agree with you, because parents need jobs.
That's right.
But parents need to also know how to stay together. And I'm seeing, you know, when we come back, I want you to come back to the show.
Okay.
Because I want us to extend this discussion, because I think that I need you to show us how we can practically marry these policy needs to these personal needs. Because there's something that's being missed here, you know, by all of us.
That's
you know,
right.
we really, you need a job, and we need people to stay together. So, more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a moment.
If you have a question, an idea for a show topic, or just want to leave a comment, log on to Facebook and visit the Santita Jackson fan page. And don't forget to follow her on Twitter at SantitaJ. Thanks for watching this edition of the Santita Jackson Show.